Hello, and welcome to the SQL Power Suite end-to-end demo. In this demo, we want to show you various regulatory functions and processes that can be automated by the SQL Power Suite platform. We will demo first an automated licensing process, then the submission and review of a financial return, followed by the various ways to monitor these submissions in the system using inline analytics, a built-in CRM system called Organization Profile, and various risk profile dashboards. For the last portion of the demo, we will showcase how to manage on-site inspections, and this will be all within the same web portal. So to begin, we'll walk through the automated licensing process, which involves the collection of the application form, electronic signatures, payment, and certificate generation. Currently, we're at the login screen to log into the secure web portal, which is the central hub for regulators to interface with their regulated entities. I'll be logging in as a submitter user from a regulated financial institution to demonstrate how an application for a trust license is processed using the system. So once logged in, we can see the default screen for all users with an announcements portlet to check notifications that are received within the system. Right now, currently, we don't have any notifications yet. And you can see we have the top menu here displaying different menu options to this user. The system is role-based, allowing different users to gain access to different features and functionalities based on their assigned roles. This user has access to a number of tabs here along the top menu. And just to go over them quickly, here the filings and the submitted filings tab is used for submitting scheduled filings such as monthly or year-end financial returns. And the new requests, in-progress requests, and submitted requests are where new processes can be launched on demand and managed, such as any license applications or change requests. We will head to the New Requests tab right now to take a look at the available requests to this user. So in this tab, we have the New Requests portlet, which lists all the applications and requests available to this user based on their organization and the assigned role in the system. This user only has access to the application for a trust license. So clicking on the name will now launch the process and automatically execute the first task, which is to submit an application form. Here you can see that we've entered the platform's online forms facility called Power Forms. This facility is a powerful and interactive tool for submitters to work on the documents and receive real-time validation feedback. Here immediately you can see there are some fields highlighted in red. These are mandatory fields that must be filled in order to make a submission. Any red highlighted fields can also indicate errors based on certain business rules we embed into the form, and they all must be corrected before making a submission. We can be looking at different types of errors in a bit. For now, I'm going to quickly fill in the mandatory fields to continue the application process. And here, as we filled in the form, you can see that the mandatory error is no longer there, and the validation is in real time. I'm going to quickly scroll down, just fill in the rest of this form to make a submission and continue on with the process. So once all the fields are filled in, now hit Validate to take a look at our validation summary. So here in the validation results page, you can see these cautions here are the attachments that we might potentially attach to this application. However, none of them are mandatory, so we have an enabled submit button. And by submitting now, the system is now signing this user into the platform's e-signing room to place a digital signature on the application. Here you can see that our user has been signed in, and we're going to proceed By clicking on this blue pen icon, it's going to open this document now generated in PDF with all the values that we've just filled in automatically populated into the document. And by clicking on Next Annotation, it's going to bring me to the place where I'm required to place my digital signature to make a submission. So by clicking on the yellow box, I will see a final prompt to finalize the digital signature, and signing the application will place the username, date, and timestamp on the application and send the signed document to the eVault, which stores the one true copy of the document. So once that's complete, you can see we've received a submission receipt. We can see that there are still a task pending for us to complete, which is the application fee. We now have the in-progress requests portlet. That's listing all of the applications and requests that is currently in progress for this user. Clicking on the plus sign will reveal individual tasks in the process. So the blue color indicates that a task needs to be completed by my user, and it'll turn gray when it is completed or when it's not actionable by my user. Since our application has already been submitted and signed, it's displayed in gray, and the payment task is pending completion, so it's in blue. Clicking on the payment link will reveal a pop-up where submitters can pay the application fee. Here you can see the description for our application fee as well as the amount, and this user has the option to pay by credit card. Based on configurations, submitters can have additional payment options available, such as paying by cash, check, credit card, or escrow, which will all go through different workflows to process them differently. So I'm going to go ahead and select the option to pay by credit card. And I'm going to quickly fill in the payment details so we can process the payment. Here you can see that the status has now been updated as payment received, and the next task will be now executed. However, you can see for the time being, there are no more tasks to be completed by my user. So I'll be logging in as an analyst to take a look at the remaining business workflow. So here I've logged in as the analyst user from the regulator organization who will be processing the application. And you can see this user has just received a notification letting us know that a new application for a trust license has been submitted. We will head to the In Progress Requests tab to take a look. So here again, we're going to click on the plus button, and you can see 2 tasks remaining for this user. One is to first review the application, and 2 would be to make a manual decision for the application review. Opening the document task is going to allow the analyst to review the submitted application now in read-only mode, and they are unable to make changes in the document to preserve the integrity of the submitted form. Next, we'll take a look at the manual decision task. This is the step in the business process to make a manual decision to approve or reject the application. When making a decision, analysts can leave notes to share with the team, and when a decision is made, it'll be instantly reflected with a completed status, and the business process will execute the next task. I'm going to approve the application. To see the final task, we're going to head to Submitted Requests. Since our application is now complete, the system has executed the final task, which is the certificate generation. And by clicking on the name of the certificate, it's going to automatically download a copy to our desktop. The text on the certificate can change dynamically based on the information provided by the client. So for example, here we can see that the name of the organization has been populated, as well as a unique license number. So that is the end-to-end process of the licensing application process in the system. Next, I'm going to show you how our system collects financial returns and what the analyst can do with the collected data within the system. To do so, we'll log in as a user from a licensed organization called Alliance Capital and open the Filings tab. So here we've navigated to the Filings tab, and we can now see the Filings portlet, which lists all of the financial filings that are required for submission by the user. Each row is a unique reporting window to make a submission, and the system automatically generates these reporting windows based on each user's filing requirements. I'm going to be looking for a specific filing to submit today. It's this one right here with the filing ID 9815, and clicking on the filing number will open the online forms facility to submit the filing once again. So as the first page, we can see the table of schedules listing all of the schedules in a financial filing. Each schedule is the equivalent of a single sheet in Excel for comparison. And here you can see a sample return that we've designed to show you the basic functionalities of this return. We have the mandatory fields in the current year column, and then we have the values pre-populated for the prior years. This is an example of the system being able to populate values based on previous submissions. We'll take a look at the next schedule, which is the income statement. You can see this layout similar to our balance sheet. Next, in the investment details, we have a multi-row table where we'll be able to add as many rows as needed to ensure that we have a complete report. And for the final schedule, we have the capital requirements sheet made up of 3 fields. In order to complete this form, I'm going to now use the Excel upload feature. To access the template, we'll hover over the More button, which will reveal some options to us. And if I click on Download Excel document, the system will generate an Excel template for us to work on offline. So now I'm going to open an Excel sheet that I have previously prepared. Here you can see in this document, we have the balance sheet, the income statement, investment details, and a capital requirements sheet, just like our table of schedules. I have filled in all the values on the balance sheet except for the 5 first fields. And the same goes for the income statement. I have added 4 rows for our investment details sheet. And in the capital requirements sheet, I left the 3 fields empty. So now to upload this template into the system, again, we're going to hover over the More menu button, and this time select Upload Excel Document. It's going to bring me to a page where I can select the Excel file from my directory and upload. And here we can see that our import has been successful, and it's giving us the details of all the concepts that have been imported into the form, all of the respective mappings and the value. So I'm going to return once again to the table of schedules and to the balance sheet to now look at the values imported into the forms. You can see here that the 5 fields, as it was in the Excel sheet, are still empty. And if I scroll down, you can now see there is a value that is highlighted in red. If I hover over, I'll be able to see the error message that reads total assets must equal total liabilities and shareholder equity. So here's an example of a business rule that's fired based on basic accounting principles, which I'm going to fix now manually by entering in these values at the top here. And also, as I'm entering in these values, you can see that calculations are being done automatically by the system in real time. And now that the values have been filled in, if I scroll back to the bottom, this value is no longer highlighted in red, and we're okay to proceed with reviewing the rest of our import. Next, in the income statement, all of the values we can see are successfully imported. Investment details have the 4 rows as expected. And the capital requirements, again, the 3 fields are empty, just like the Excel sheet. At this time, I'm going to click on Validate to show you system's behavior when we try to make a submission that is not yet complete. So immediately we can see that the Submit button has been grayed out, and the validation results page is listing all of the errors that must be corrected before we can make a successful submission. So we have the 3 not reported empty values from the capital requirements sheet, as well as some mandatory attachments that are missing for this submission. I'm going to click on the link of where the error appears, and it'll bring me directly to the page. And I'm going to fill in these values manually now to, again, fix these errors. And this time we can see that there's a field highlighted in yellow. This is a warning. And by hovering over, we can read the warning message, which says that we have a low total capital available. Unlike errors, the system will accept submissions, but it is still in place to notify the submitters to review these values once again before submission, as well as to flag these values to the analyst post-submissions. I'm going to head to the Attachments tab to make the 3 mandatory attachments. So by clicking on Choose File, I'm able to select the file for the actuarial valuations, reinsurance cover notes, and audited financial statements from my directory. And once that's completed, I'm going to validate once again. And now you can see that our validation results page has been updated. The only caution remaining is the yellow highlighted field that we've just seen. And the Submit button is no longer grayed out, and we're able to make the submission. So our submission for this financial return is complete. We'll be now logging in as an analyst to take a look at how the submission appears on their end. So I have logged in as the analyst who will be reviewing the submitted financial return. And to do so, I'll be heading to the Submitted Filings tab. In the Submitted Filings tab, we have all of the filings that have been submitted into the system that is available for this analyst to review. I want to talk about inline analytics for a little bit, which is a way the system helps to reduce the manual effort that's associated with ongoing risk assessments. It does so by giving the review analysts an instant visual of the risk areas. How this works is that the system allows analysts to define risk level thresholds to individual concepts within a filing. And depending on which risk range a value falls under, inline analytics will display that specific color. So in this case, there's a filing with a red circle beside it. This means that there's a value within this submission that has fallen below the acceptable range and needs further review. Yellow would indicate that the value is within the warning range, and if everything is within the acceptable range, then the filing would have a green circle beside it. And the analyst can also review the at-risk values and thresholds in more detail by opening the form. Again, clicking on the filing ID in the Submitted Filings portlet will open the submitted filing. I'm going to head to the balance sheet. And here you can see inline analytics appears in real time at the concept level. The thresholds can also vary by time period, so on a single concept, different thresholds can be applied based on certain filing periods. Hovering over the value will reveal a pop-up where the analyst can review the exact thresholds applied to the concept. Additionally, if there's a previous value for comparison in the system, inline analytics will show an arrow pointing up or down to indicate the values change from the previous submission. So now if more information is required on the organization, analysts can take a closer look in the Organization Profile tab. This is accessible from the top menu. And in this tab, the analyst can see all the organization that exists in the system, their charter number, and some associated records, and most importantly, their risk rating, color-coded in either red, yellow, or green again, letting us know their exact risk rating in the system right now. I'm going to look up a specific organization, Alliance, and I'm going to click on the charter number to open their organization profile. The organization profile displays a 360-degree view of all the regulated institutions in the system. So this is where analysts can easily access all pertinent information related to Alliance Capital in a very compact format. So from the General Information tab, we can see some basic information about Alliance Capital, such as their fiscal year-end date, their asset group, peer group, the date they were recognized in the system, their address, and so on. And we can see any licenses they hold, if there's any senior staff that's recognized by the system, the list of their shareholders, including the start and end date, any related organizations in the system. For example, this one, we're seeing that Alliance Capital has a related organization called XYZ Corporation that is a branch office. We can also see all the individuals related to Alliance Capital, all of the submissions that have been previously made by Alliance Capital, as well as any documents that have been uploaded into the system. The system also stores these documents in a dedicated document management system, allowing for comprehensive management of all submitted documents and uploaded attachments in the system. The details you see here are automatically filled in based on previous submissions, but analyst users also has the option to manually update the information to reflect changes. So by clicking on this drop-down, it'll reveal some additional pages that we could take a look at. For example, the communications page is reflecting the entire communication history between Alliance Capital and the regulator organization. And we have some additional basic display options here, but the org profile can be configured to display other types of information that the client wishes to monitor. So we're going to head back to the General Information tab to take a closer look at the risk profile. The risk profile of this organization is located on the top right, with a scorecard displaying the overall risk score and the level. So here we can see that their risk level is high and their score is 42.44%. You can see a breakdown based off CAMEL ratings and their actual performance ratios calculated from previous submitted financial filings. Analysts can click on the View Full Risk Profile to take a closer look at the details. So here you can see the full risk profile of Alliance Capital. Again, we can see the overall score and the overall risk level of this organization. On this page, we can see each of the metrics that we're monitoring, the base, target, and the actual performance percentage, and how we calculate the total for their performance. Additionally, this page is broken down into 5 tabs, which is capital, asset quality, management quality, earnings, and liquidity. So we can go through each of the tabs quickly to show you some of the graphs and reports that can be generated by the system. And first, looking in the Capitals tab, we can see that the first graph is capturing the regulatory capital ratios over time. And the second graph is showing us the risk-weighted capital ratios over time. Both we can see that there is a downward trend for this organization. And by hovering over any of the data points, we'll be able to see the absolute value for the exact time period. So in the next tab, we have the asset quality displayed in 2 graphs. One is the percentage of delinquent loans greater than 30 days by loan type, and the second is greater than 90 days by loan type. And this is an interactive graph. By selecting or deselecting these checkboxes, we'll be able to look exactly into the areas that we want to focus on. In the next tab, we have the risk management quality displayed in a bar graph, and it's giving us a risk rating for each of the month over time. And again, if we hover over any of the bars, it'll give us an absolute value for that time period. Next, in the earnings tab, we have the efficiency ratio over time, We also have a return on average assets and return on regulatory capital displayed in comparison side by side over time. In the final tab, if we take a look at the liquidity, we can see again a downward trend for this organization and additional graphs broken down into deposits and loans. This dashboard is also available for the entire market, and this can be accessed by going to the Camel dashboard from the top menu. And from here, the analyst can review the financial health of the entire market. As you can see, it's letting us know this is the total. They can also drill down into different groupings of organizations. For example, here we've broken them down into different asset groups. If I select $1 billion in assets, now you can see that we have a total that is different specifically for this asset group, and the overall score and risk level has changed. And the next drop-down list will allow us to select any organization that belongs to this specific asset group. Here we can see Alliance Capital is in the greater than $1 billion in asset group size. And this allows analysts to make easy comparisons. For example, comparing an organization against another peer organization, or within a specific sector, or against the entire market, and so on. This dashboard also is configurable. Just like the organization profile, we can configure the dashboard to display additional indicators that you wish to monitor. Internal analyst users can log into the web portal to access various risk assessment tools. Authorized users can access the Risk Guidance tab. The Risk Guidance tab allows supervisory teams to implement a clearly defined framework to allocate resources and attention to where it's most needed. The Risk Guidance tab can vary by community. Communities are groupings of organizations within the system, grouped based on attributes such as market, line of business, size, and complexity. It's the system's way of grouping user access to certain types of returns or inspections based on their community membership. For this demo, we're looking at an insurance community that breaks down the risk score into 4 categories: low, medium high, and high. The definition, recovery actions, and resolution actions are displayed for each risk score category. Actions can be modified by authorized users. The final column displays the frequency of on-site inspections, meaning how often an on-site inspection should occur based on the organization's risk rating. This varied frequency guides supervisory teams to allocate supervisory efforts proportionate to the entity's risk level. Below, users can see a list of all the returns scheduled for this community with organizations with a low risk score. The frequency of each return submission is set to annually. Now we're reviewing the return scheduling frequency for organizations with high risk scores. To update the scheduling frequency, select a different reporting frequency from the drop-down and save changes. So from weekly, we can change the frequency to monthly. The start and end dates of the frequency can also be saved. Once saved, the system will generate reporting windows based on the changed frequency and dates for that community. The risk assessment ratings for each organization can be reviewed in more detail in each organization's organization profile. We're going to open a sample organization called Alliance Capital. The organization profile displays a 360-degree view of each regulated institution in the system. The data can be derived from a combination of sources, such as data submitted by the organization, manual entry by an internal user, or passed by integrating with a third-party risk assessment tool. The risk scores of an organization is displayed on the top right. There are different inherent risk and governance categories being monitored, such as financial risk, IT risk, legal risk, reputational risk, an audit score, board score, senior management score, and so on. The Financial KPIs tab displays the breakdown of financial risks. The link to view full risk profile will open a real-time dashboard to review their financial health in more detail. The org profile has additional tabs containing all pertinent information. This can be accessed using a drop-down list. In the Risk Profile tab, this allows authorized internal users to manually enter the risk or governance score by category. Each risk or governance categories can be updated manually. And in the reporting exceptions, this allows authorized users to configure an exception to the reporting frequency for a specific organization. By adding a reporting exception, the frequency change is applied only to this specific organization and does not affect other organizations in the community. Once the changes are made, while all other organizations have a quarterly frequency for this return, Alliance will be required to make monthly submissions instead. Based on the reported values, the risk status of an organization might change and require further investigation on site. So we will now walk through a pre-designed on-site inspection business process built using the system's business process feature. So to begin the on-site inspection process, I'm going to be logging in as a supervisor user to launch the on-site inspection process and assign an inspection lead and supporting team members. I'm going to head to New Requests to start a new process. And you can see this user has the ability to start the on-site inspection process. Upon launching the process, the user will be required to fill out an initial form to manage the team members that will be a part of this investigation. I'm going to select user Dan Malone, and I'm also going to add additional members to be part of the inspection team. And clicking on Start is going to launch the first task, which is the inspection memo. Here in the date of notification, I'm going to indicate the date where we're going to notify the entity that is being inspected. And the inspected entity, I get to select the organization from this drop-down list generated by the system of all the organizations available in the system. I've selected Alliance Capital. And next we have a section to fill in the rationale, scope, and objectives of this investigation. I have previously prepared this section, so I'm going to quickly just paste that in there and proceed. And I'm going to submit the inspection memo. And you can see that there are additional tasks for this inspection now. We're going to head to the in progress request to see what other tasks have been generated. And here we can see a task which is the first request for information. This is a pre-inspection form that has to be filled out by a user from the inspected entity. I'm going to click on this icon and reveal some options here where we have task assignment. And the system will allow myself as the supervisor user to assign tasks specifically to a user in the system that we have identified as a part of the team member. I'm going to select Jane to complete this form. So now you can see that the task is now displayed in gray since it is no longer assigned to my user, but it has been assigned to Jane to fill out. I'm going to be logging in as Jane to submit the pre-inspection form. I'm going to head to the in progress request and locate the same process. And here you can see this user has now access to fill out the first request for information. You'll also notice that this user, as the external entity, does not get to see any other steps within the investigation and will only have access to work on tasks that have been specifically assigned to them by the inspection lead or the supervisor. I'm going to click on the pre-inspection form. We can see that this is a short form here that I could quickly fill out. Again, I'm going to quickly fill out the mandatory fields. And with all the mandatory fields filled in, I'm also going to head to the Attachments tab to ensure that we have all the necessary documents uploaded. An organization chart is mandatory, so I'm going to select that from my directory. I will also attach the staffing levels and key functions, as well as internal audit procedures. So along with the 3 uploads, I'm going to submit our pre-inspection form. And head back to the in-progress requests. And now you can see this task has been submitted by Jane, and Jane will not gain any access to the rest of the inspection process. I'm going to be logging in as an inspection lead user now to walk through the rest of the on-site inspection process. We're again going to head to the in-progress requests and take a look at the tasks that has been created and appended to the inspection process. We can see the inspection memo that has been left to us by the supervisor. We can also see the first request for information that has been submitted. And we can see that now the fieldwork is in progress. And there are 3 tasks that has been generated based on our basic template design. So we have the on-site inspection kickoff meeting, senior management interview, and procedure walkthrough that we have pre-designed into this process. I'm going to select the on-site inspection kickoff meeting and schedule this task. And I can select the meeting invitees by clicking on their name and moving them to the right side into the selected user box. And once I click save, the system is going to automatically schedule the meeting. As you can see here, the status has now changed, and it's also going to send out the invitations to those that have been invited to the meeting. And in case additional tasks must be added to the inspection to accommodate the changing circumstances, the inspection lead has the option to do so by heading to the Actions column once again and clicking on this icon for the main process. And they'll see 4 different subtasks that can be added to any process, which is a meeting task, payment task, milestone task, or a document task. Selecting one of these options will allow the user to create a subtask ad hoc and append it to the process. For example, we'll try creating a milestone task. And this milestone task is to collect a scenario analysis from the inspected entity. So I'll give it a title. I'll also assign a due date. And leave a note. And I'll also be able to select the user responsible for completing this task. I'm going to select Jane once again and hit save. So now the system has generated a milestone task and appended to this process. We can see here, submit scenario analysis is now awaiting completion, and we can see the due date as well. This task is displayed in gray since we have specifically assigned it to Jane. If we need to change the user assigned or the due date at any time, we can click this icon on the action column and we can select one of these options here. In order to continue on with the process, I'm going to manually end the investigation. I have a action button to complete fieldwork, which will now launch the reporting phase. And here you can see the on-site inspection report has been generated. So the on-site inspection team is required to prepare an inspection report to communicate their findings, requirements, and recommendations internally and with the inspected entity. On the draft report, multiple team members can work on the report concurrently and collaborate to prepare the final report. So I've just filled in the executive summary that I have previously prepared. And now I'm going to select the supervisory rating for this inspection. For the risk rating, we'll say it's moderate. The direction of composite risk is right now increasing. And the duration of the risk forecast, will describe it as 6 months. And the intervention stage rating is at an early warning stage. And here in the next section, we have the fieldwork findings where we're able to enter in the investigation type, as well as any of the findings and the details that we have uncovered during the inspection fieldwork. We had a senior officer interview as part of the investigation, and I'm going to paste in the findings that we had. And also here in the inspection outcome, we have a section to add in the requirements and recommendations. I'm going to copy in the requirement that I have previously prepared, which is a fine, and I'm also going to assign a due date. Assuming that the report has been completed, I'm going to submit the report, which will now execute a consistency review. The consistency review is a manual decision task, and by clicking on its name, we can open the review task, which is to check for the inspection finding consistency. And we have an option to either approve or reject this review. And we're going to approve the review to move on with the process. Once the review is complete, the system has done two things. One is generate a PDF copy of the inspection report so that it is immediately ready for distribution. By clicking on the report name, it's going to download a copy to our desktop. And here you can see the PDF copy that has been generated based on our report. Also, it created a final meeting task for us to schedule the exit meeting with the inspected entity. And this is the end of the on-site inspection business process that we have designed.